Hello, my classmates and Dr. Sanchez. My name is Pawan Bhandari, and I'm presenting to you my graduate research project on gender discrimination affects workplace productivity. I'm going to talk about the agenda, introductions, objectives, literature review, limitation of study, methodologies I used for this research, results, suggestions, conclusion, recommendation. In any organization, employees perform a very important role in the success of any organization or institute regardless of their gender difference. Starting from the most top employees to those at the bottom, all of them create a team that can result a success or failure of the organization or institute. Gender discrimination has in the past and present lead to conflict in the workplace. This conflict usually destroys the team spirit and leads to loss of morale to the party being discriminated. Discrimination can exist in different ways, including employment of staff, payment of salary, wages, staff promotion, and inequality in providing goods and facility needs to different gender. The HRM in any institute is responsible for the training, staffing, motivating, maintaining, and frequent development of the employees. The institution staff is further responsible for the hiring, planning, recruiting, and selection of the employee. To manage diverse employees, the HRM will have to establish a strong and reliable workforce to perform to their full potential in the fair working environment. No member faces any advantage or disadvantage over another staff. Managing diverse employees is essential in this globalized era, which requires avoiding unfair discrimination and enabling employees to compete on equal and fair basis. In this research, I will explore the issue of gender discrimination in the workplace on both men and women and its effects on satisfaction, motivation, commitment, and how it affects to the success of the institution or the organization. Let's talk about the objectives of this study. The objective of this research are the analysis of gender discrimination experienced in the workplace, the effects caused by gender discrimination to both women and men, recommendation to help reduce gender discrimination. Let's talk about literature review on this research paper. I found one journal which was published in 2016. In their studies, identify that though there is a room for improvement, a lot in progress has to be done to achieve gender equality. Women advancement into political and economic freedom has been chaotic since the rise of the second wave of the feminism. The gender attitude towards women has not fully taken the shape as much as gender equality is concerned. Discrimination against women is more than in men, and people at the top of the job description are the most biased against women compared to those at the bottom. There is another article which was published in 2017. In their research on gender wage gap noted that although the pay gap has declined, women workforce interruption and working shorter hours continuously affect their pay. There is still evidence in the different compensation scales used on both women and men in the workplace. Although the gender pay gap has declined, there is need to continue campaigning for equality in the workplace. I'm going to talk about gender discrimination. Discrimination is experienced in different forms such as age discrimination, sexual harassment, racial discrimination, gender isolated professional. It is treating people based on their differences or sometimes weakness. It occurs when a certain group of people has a biased view about another group of people. In the workplace, gender discrimination can be experienced between two groups of employees, probably with a similar education, work experience, and skill, or from someone of higher level to those in lower level. It occurs when work done by one gender is devalued and more value is given to work done by another gender, and thus there is a difference in pay even though the title is the same. For instance, there are people who believe that men are more capable of handling managerial jobs as compared to women even though both have the same work experience. And others may believe that people from the certain race cannot be trusted with managerial job and preferring people from a certain race. Gender discrimination is a factor that promotes poverty because it leads to people lacking income and assets to cater to their daily basic needs. It denies people their rights of equal pay for the equal work done. And it is a way of robbing the law and giving those in able positions. Poverty is always a result of lack of power to voice one's right. The lack of resource and empowering women and the disadvantaged group of people is one way of destroying the cycle of poverty. Empowering women has gone further than educating them and addressing women agencies question, helping them realize their self-worth and involving their families and even the community on the importance of the women empowerment. Let's talk about the gender discrimination on women. Research is done in various parts of the world continue to reveal that women compared to men face a greater challenge when it comes to practicing and advancing their careers in spite of more women joining legal practices. For instance, a research conducted by US Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2019, only 32.2% of women were found to be on the managerial job compared to 68% of men. A lower number of women is found in leadership jobs and then the other top jobs. Despite more women joining law schools in equal portion as men, researchers have still found evidence of women not being able to make the same progress to ascending to position of leadership as men. Among challenges experienced with women, especially mothers who are balancing their job, career, expectation, and responsibilities at home, managing both at the same time is a really difficult task, even though both are so demanding. Gender stereotypes and parental responsibility have a significant effect on the professional career choice of women and mothers, and who have less effect on men. Women, especially mothers, are likely to change the working schedule to accommodate their demands. It has a significant effect on their competence level in the workplace, unlike men who might be found at work full time. It also affects their productivity, and when it comes to employee selection, they may have some disadvantages. Jobs that require full-time commitment have fewer women than flexible jobs, whereas where one can work with a flexible schedule has more women. Women may face discrimination at work in the most case when work responsibilities and children's responsibilities collide with no alternative to manage the two. Most women will run to part-time work since they can freely be accommodated and they can balance work and family. However, this option is not the best because it leads to more disadvantages and perpetuates gender inequalities. The main reason for the shifting to part-time is necessary because of the children, but from the conflict that arises from the employer's ideal expectation and demand on the work assignment, which cause stress and impact the women's progress in career advancement. Now, let's talk about gender discrimination against men. Gender discrimination has always been known as female issues, but we can't just rule out the possibility that men may face gender discrimination. Discrimination to the female or male has an equal impact on their lives. When we are campaigning for gender equality, it is not only women who are to be considered, but also men because they face gender issues which may include health, low education issues, gender norms, etc., etc. The society usually expects much from the female, and sometimes the female ender may be forced to work so hard to deliver as per expectation. Society sees men as the sole providers of their homes, regardless of their level of education or their financial capabilities, and sometimes men who are low in terms of how much they get or how much they have could face discrimination such as rejection and them being looked down upon by other men and even women. Men are perceived to have a low life expectancy level than women, and reason could be that men are involved in risky jobs to meet their needs and family needs. The pressure from external and internal could sometimes make men desperate, and the high percentage of men will feel useless when they cannot support their family. For this reason, most men end up committing suicide, and some at younger age. The rate at which men commit suicide is even higher than women, and so indirectly, men are facing discrimination in one way or another, and they need to be helped to achieve their goals and to be able to meet their needs. Furthermore, when it comes to gender equality, men opt to be involved since this is the only way we can bring changes is to make men know the importance of equality to them. In a family where the men and the women both have jobs that are equally paying well, it is easier to share the family responsibilities such as paying bills equally and supporting another family equally without laying the whole weight on the person perceived to be the sole provider. And this help both the men and women. I'm going to talk about other types of discrimination in workplace. Even gender discrimination carries weight over all other types of discrimination in the workplace. Other types of discrimination can also affect employees' performance in the workplace, and this include the number one, sexual harassment. Let's talk about sexual harassment on women. Sexual harassment for women at the workplace is common globally, and women faces higher risk of sexual harassment than men, even though both could face sexual harassment. There have been many reported cases concerning women being harassed by their senior employers or senior employees. This kind of harassment affects not their just work productivity, but also their health. It leads to work absenteeism for the ones affected, and most women who have been harassed are reported to have lower self-esteem, which affects their work and families. Even though such cases exist, less has been done to curb this problem. There is also possibility that some women could be allowing to this happen to be given certain favors in workplace, or even some had to allow this to get the job in the first place. Women may fail to report this case to relevant authorities for fear that they may lose their jobs and be harmed by the victors, and thus they will allow this to happen as long as they have their jobs. There are workplace policies that prohibit sexual harassment, and most countries already have such policies. They serve to protect every employee's right and enable an equal share of resources without blackmail. This kind of harassment is now receiving condemnation internationally, and the cases have been far reduced. However, there are still jobs where women face discrimination. Still, the challenge with the sexual harassment is that it is very hard to measure and monitor such cases unless the victims report this issue. The majority of women might be facing this kind of harassment are younger, and those of lower job ranks and may have supervisor of the opposite sex, which is similar to men. The females could be working in male-dominated jobs and for males in female-dominated jobs. For instance, sexual harassment for women in the military. Now I'm going to talk about effect of gender discrimination. Effect of gender discrimination on employee performance. Since employees are for the organization's success, their performance is very crucial. Performance include the activities that employees do daily. Employees' consistency in work, involvement at work, and adherence to the organizational goals sum as the performance. When an employee fails to commit it to the organization goal and the assignment given to them, then there is a possibility the organization may not achieve its result. When employees are unsatisfied, they may fail to be committed to the organization's goal. Gender discrimination results in employees not being satisfied, and the organization needs to manage its human resource effectively to get a maximum contribution and commitment to the organization. Employees have a direct impact on the success of the organization. Maximum utilization will then have to involve the protection of gender risk of every employee and seeing that every employees get to receive a fair share of the benefit from the organization without any manner of discrimination. Let's talk about effect of gender discrimination on employees' health. There are health risks that arises due to gender discrimination in the workplace. And an example is a depression, outburst, and higher level of anxiety. Most women who have experienced harassment in the workplace might turn into drugs, alcohol due to depression, which reduce their productivity in the workplace and affects their health, which also affect their families. Sexual harassment has led to the victims contracting sexually transmitted disease such as HIV and STIs. Some who unknowingly contracted this disease transmitted to their loved one, which affects their lives, and some may commit suicide because of same. Methodology for this research project. This research will use the data obtained by different research institutions and researchers on gender discrimination in the workplace. The first set of the data is obtained from research conducted by IFACT, International Federation of an Accountant, in the year of 2020 in the Public Finance Institute concerning women contribution in improving public financial management. The data was collected across 22 countries. The second data the second set of data is obtained from website of major technology companies across the world by researchers. The tech companies include Apple, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft. The aim is to demonstrate the percentage of women in leadership and those in the technical job. The third set of data is obtained from researchers who collected data from random employees of various companies, which includes all gender and races. The data was collected in the form of interviews, questionnaire, and observation. The aim was to collect the responses from various employees on the kind of discrimination they might have faced in the workplace. The method of data collection. The number one, question. A questionnaire is a research tool that used for collecting data in the field of specific group of people in the form of short question and where respondents are required to answer according to how they understand the question asked. It helps the researchers to gain first-hand knowledge concerning the topic interested and use of the data to give a final judgment. Let's talk about interviews. It is also a tool for primary data collection where a researcher gets to ask a respondent question directly and he or she can record the information for analysis. The researchers can get the right data this way because he or she could monitor the respondent emotions while answering the question. The data obtained from both the interviews and questionnaires are analyzed and the results are represented in the tables and chart. And number three, published literature sources. They are also source of primary data that are written by researchers recorded in journals. The sources of data may be from reports, conference paper, and company release report. Methods of data interpretation used. Use of chart. It is a data representation method and can be in the form of bars, lines, histograms, scattered, etc. They give a pictorial visualization of results so that the results are very easy to interpret by the reader. Results in this study shall utilize bar charts to interpret the data collected from interviews and questionnaires. Result. The chart below are used to represent the data collected to demonstrate the evidence of gender discrimination in the workplace. From the statistics taken in 4 tech organizations, the average percentage of women who are part of the task force is 32.5% of the total employees. Out of these, the average percentage of women found in leadership is 28.25%, and those found in technical jobs in 22.25% of the total percentage of women in the task force. There is evidence that gender inequality is still an issue even currently, and women are the most affected group from the total task force. Women are less than men by a significant percentage. When selecting employees for various jobs, women are preferred for lesser engaging jobs such as secretarial jobs, cleaning, etc. Technical jobs are preferred for men. There is some business evidence when selecting male and female employees for leadership jobs compared to the percentage of the male leadership. In chart, although women are the most affected group, some significant percentage of men faces discrimination in workplace. 28% of men admitted to having been overlooked for a promotion, whereas 29% of women admitted for the same. 28% of the women claimed that their work had not been taken seriously, and 23% of men admitted the same. On unfair dismissal, 26% of men had been unfairly dismissed, and 20% of women admitted the same. 20% of men admitted to have not been offered the job because of their gender, with 21% of women admitting the same. On this chart 3, gender discrimination against women in public finance institute. Out of 107 women respondents, 69% admitted to having experienced a certain kind of discrimination. 51% of women claim that bias in recruitment, employee selection, and promotion are the main areas that women face discrimination. They are very important factors that contribute to the women's success. 16% claim to have experienced age discrimination. 17% said they had experienced sexual harassment. 28% had experienced unequal pay, and 33% claimed to have worked with unsupportive bosses. From this research, we can conclude that women, just like men, are capable of working and delivering quality service on the assignment given to them. To achieve equal rights, we have to change gender discrimination and destroy barriers that hinders women employees from certain privileges. It is time that human resources should be very keen on hiring and promotion employees to avoid any gender discrimination dispute in the workforce. Unlike before, 21st century has seen women not being left out, and when it comes to obtaining relevant skill and training in various training centers, some have even outperformed men in fields assignments. Thus, only the ignorant people would still view women as incapable. It's only the inclusivity of women and women in the workforce that will benefit from every employee's insight, experience, and intelligence. Leadership structures have evolved over the years, and the power privileges that were being preserved for men alone should now start to be shared with women. Systems that prevented women from achieving their goals have to evolve too and change to incorporate women in the system and ensure a successful task force is built up. And in conclusion, it will be shame to hear cases of discrimination in the current generation. In this current generation, society has worked hard to create a position for women in the society, and not just a women but every gender, age, race, etc. Employers and employees who still perpetuate gender discrimination should feel ashamed of themselves. I would want a society where I'm not ashamed to recognize a woman as my senior or as my leader, but instead be proud of it. Suggestion and recommendation from this research project. Although the results obtained here are just from a small group of individuals selected for research purposes, they portray gender discrimination and evidence that it still exists in the workplace in a significant percentage. Men and women have the responsibility to ensure that gender discrimination is minimized in the workplace because it has a negative impact not only the victim but also on society. We should focus on change the societal culture and norms and addressing the barriers that are preventing equality in the workplace. Men and women should change their mindsets if we are go too far in gender discrimination in the workplace. To overcome gender discrimination, not just to women only, but to all genders, I would recommend creating awareness over the effects of gender discrimination and its effects on not only on the workplace but also on society. Those still found discriminating should be reported to relevant authorities in writing the act of discrimination and harassment. In most countries, the Equal Employment Opportunity Act is in play to protect employees from harassment, and other countries without this should also consider employing the same. Furthermore, employees have the right to quit and report the institution they feel gender discrimination is exercised. Recommendation: what to do to promote gender equality in the workplace. Both men and women can face issues regarding gender inequality in the workplace. to promote gender indiscrimination in the workplace, I would suggest the following, especially by the employers. Number one, the role of the government. The government has a responsibility to enforce gender equality laws and offer training programs on employers on gender equality. Law enforcers should ensure that organizations that are reported for gender inequality or workplace discrimination are punished and made to compensate the victim. And the second, promote a free environment where employees participate according to their talents and skills. Organizations should promote a free and fair environment, and that each employee should be given equal opportunities to express their skills and knowledge for the betterment of the organization. Number three, men and women should share equal responsibilities at home. When it comes to home responsibilities, men and women should learn to share equally. Be it paying bills or take care of the house chores, it will help reduce pressure on women or men who might have difficulties balancing between job and work. Number four, extend paid leave on women with infants. Women with infants should be given a paid leave to take care of their infants before they can officially report it back to work. Number five, offer better working conditions for men and women. Employees should offer an environment where employees are comfortable working, to be free to deliver their skills and be committed to company goals. Number six, electronic interview of prospective job applicants will reduce biases that may come from a personal point of view. Number seven, provide mentorship to every employee and not just a specific gender. And number nine, offer equal job rights. These are the references that I used for this research project. Thank you so much everyone for your time and attention. I hope you will enjoy my presentation. Thank you.